We have Sophia Wanuna as our guest host today. Sophia is the deputy editor for broadcast KTN. Siti Muga is away for the week, but he'll be back. We have two guests who are joining us today to commemorate a special day. It's a Safer Internet Day. Mutemi is a managing partner at Nzili and Sumbi Advocates, and Dr. Vincent Ngundi is acting director cybersecurity at the Communications Authority. We welcome them the way we welcome all our guests every morning with a day's proverb. Because CT is away, I am CT. So CT, the proverb. Yes. The proverbs all of this week are from the country of Malawi. Gold is a debt you can repay, but kindness not till your dying day. Gold is a debt you can repay, but kindness not till your dying day. Mercy, good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Kenya's Biggest Conversation.
Thank you for having me.
That is one of the hot seats of the Situation Room.
Oh, okay.
Make yourself comfortable. Enjoy the ride.
I feel like I should be scared.
That's what they want you to feel, but no, we're here to make you comfortable.
Okay.
Dr.
Happy
Ngundi,
to be here.
good morning as well.
Good morning.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
This proverb from Malawi, what's your interpretation of it? Gold is a debt you can repay, but kindness not till your dying day.
Yeah, I think it's about friendship. It's about making sure that you're good to people in a way that you leave a mark in the world when you exit the stage.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mercy, is this something for you?
Yeah, I feel like it's true. First of all, you can't buy kindness and you can't repay it in cash. So it's actually becoming very rare in today's world to find people who are kind, but there's people who are willing to pour money for all sorts of things. So
Yeah.
I agree with it. Absolutely.
Great.
Yeah.
Today is Safer Internet Day, is it?
Yes.
It is.
Today?
Yes.
Okay, why today?
I think it's like we have many other international days, whether it's Women Days, Men Days. Safer Internet Day is one of those days that has been earmarked by the globe to celebrate and to promote, cyber resilience, cyber hygiene, and the theme really resonates with it because it's together. Let's work together to have a safer internet. So that also tells us a collaborative approach. So I think it's a significant day. It doesn't mean that nothing else happened before today, obviously, but it's really a day to celebrate the importance of cyberspace, the transformative nature of technology, and how we need to exploit technology by ensuring that it's safe for not only ourselves, for not only social economic transformation, but also for our children. Because one of the areas that we look at is children and the youth, because they're the future of our country and the world. Yeah.
Is it marked just in Kenya, or is it regionally, is it global?
It's globally. Yeah. 7th of February every year is Global Safer Internet Day. Yeah.
So when you say safer internet, the connotation then is that the internet is not a safe place. And would that be, from the very beginning, we're saying it is
We want to make it safer.
then it's not safe. Dangerous, big, bad, ugly creatures lurking under the www. Is that what we're saying, that it's not a safe place right now, Mercy?
I think about the internet as an alternate universe. If you think about our offline world, would you say it's safe? You could be walking, down the street in Nairobi and someone could mug you. So I think spaces by themselves are not safe or unsafe. It's behavior that tends to corrupt the spaces. So I think with the internet, what has become is that it has the potential of changing your life in such glorious ways, very positive ways, but also has the potential to ruin your life. So then the connotation is not that it's already an unsafe place, it's that there are bad actors in that space. So there are some things you need to do to make sure that your experience is a safe experience online. That, I think, is the reason behind calling it a safe internet, kind of campaign. Yeah.
And I wonder, Daktari, for you, whether there are any worrying trends, especially in the context of Kenya, as we mark this day.
Yeah. So one of the roles of the Communications Authority is to monitor the cyber threats globally, on the global internet, on the cyber threats that target the country. Over the past couple of months, we've detected over 500 million attacks that have targeted the country. We've issued over 6 million advisories. So what happens is that once we detect attacks, we analyze them, our team analyzes it and comes up with advisories, which is really, this is what you're saying, this is what you need to do, and this is what we recommend as possible interventions. So we've seen that. But just going to a little bit granular, some of the things that we have seen, and they are occasioned by COVID, is on one hand, we've seen an increase in web-based attacks. And the reason behind this is because most people went cloud during the COVID time, and most organizations have realized that it's not really a bad thing to go cloud. In fact, most organizations have actually gone beyond COVID and insisted that they'll continue using cloud services and teleworking and so on and so forth. The second one, obviously, we've seen is on system vulnerabilities and mainly Internet of Things attacks. And the main thing is because we're seeing an increase in the deployment of Internet of Things devices or Internet of Things devices to ensure that we enhance our how we harness technology. So those are the two main things that you've seen. We have realized also there's a lot of attacks on of course, end users. And obviously the biggest attack vector when it comes to infiltrating systems is the people element. It's the weakest link. So this show, among other initiatives that we have, plays a significant role in creating user awareness to ensure that the weakest link doesn't become the weakest link anymore.
Sure.
Yeah.
When you talk about attacks, what do they take? What kind of persona do they take on? Because when you think attack, you think, okay, maybe somebody's throwing a bomb. Okay, but now here we're talking about the internet. So what kind of attacks are we? What are we talking about when we say attacks?
It's actually throwing a bomb. It can also be throwing a bomb. It can actually be throwing a bomb, only that it doesn't explode.
Right.
It explodes within technology. So there are many kinds of attacks. From system compromise, where for example, I'll give a financial system. Whether it's a banking system, whether it's a mobile app system, ensuring that end users can get access to it. And there are many ways of doing it. And of course, there are many ways of also preventing it. So that's one kind of attack. Obviously, you're seeing a lot of online abuse, whether it's online impersonation, cyberbullying, it's become a big thing, especially for children. There's also social engineering, where people, attackers kind of get personal information from, unknowingly from end users. And of course, that leads to other kinds of attacks. So there's a raft of attacks out there. And the intentions also vary. It could be geopolitics, it could be an issue of competition, it could be just hacktivists, people want to send a message out there. It could be for fun. There are kids out there who are trying out things that end up messing up a lot of things. So there are a raft of reasons, but also quite a number of vectors that can be used to propagate the attacks.
So we're talking about cyber insecurity here. And just like you've mentioned, there are those cyber attacks, there could be hackers, there could be email scammers, Those ones that just get into you and they make you do things. But many people, when they hear of Safe Internet Day, they think of children and just making sure the children are protected from the internet.
Yeah.
And what are these threats that go specifically to children?
So one of the most prevalent ones is obviously social engineering, where you try and get personal information from children. It could be where they live. It could be the identity of their parents. It could be, can you pick your credit card from your dad's, whatever, and read me these numbers. It could be all sorts of attacks. That's one element. The second, obviously, is bullying, which is really a serious issue for our children, and it's also one of the most prevalent things. There are also things like child sexual exploitation, which is pornography, and so on and so forth. So those are the main things that we are seeing when it comes to children.
Can I jump in a little bit on the aspect about children? I think from a practice perspective, the other thing we've been seeing is a lot of grooming of children online. So this is what grooming is getting children to trust you online. So it starts with DMs, very innocent DMs. You look really nice in this picture. I really liked your post about this. So they have this long game plan where they build trust with children over time, and the children begin to trust them. And this could even be with teenagers as well. And then, of course, if you've been chatting with someone for like 3 years, there's no reason to doubt that they would want to harm you, especially if they keep encouraging you, focus in school and, respect your parents. And then just like that, children find themselves in very inappropriate relationships, which they themselves are not aware that this is in an inappropriate relationship. If you really think about it, even from a sexual perspective, you can't talk about consent with underage children. So if your child is online and they're now posting pictures because they've been texting with this person and they trust this person and they're sending intimate photos of themselves, they've been groomed and they don't know how to explicate themselves from that situation.
And parents, I wonder, when we're talking about children, is there more that they could do, or are many of them, from your experience, ignorant, or just like, okay, they have their tablet, they're busy, and I can get to work, I can get to live my life, and they have their time managed by this gadget.
And I know what they're doing because I constantly, take and check what they're looking at.
Yeah.
I think with parents, first of all, it depends on what age the parents. I feel like if they're my age, I think we millennials have a very particular problem. Is that we are very excitable about technology. So this is when we are really into the Instagrams and into the Twitters and we really want to post our lives. So half of it is that we are a threat to our children because we are oversharing the details. And you'll be like, no, I'll never say where my child goes to school, but you post the school uniform, right? And you'll say, oh, I just came from drop off, and the drop off, everyone can see what path you're on. So you're already putting your children at risk. But at the same time, we're not investing in educating ourselves on the kind of phishing attacks out there, even on Instagram or even on WhatsApp. You're not educating yourself. So we really want to be beneficiaries of technology, but we don't want to learn it. We want our children, for example, to be on TikTok and to partake of what it brings, but we're not. We don't even understand how algorithms work and what kind of filters our children should put on their phones. And then there's the generation that's a bit older that doesn't quite understand. So then the common theme here is parents have to know first. They have to really invest in educating themselves so they can help the children. The monitoring dynamic doesn't always work because when children realize you're monitoring everything they do, they become smarter than you and you lose access to them, very, very quickly. So it can't be monitoring. It has to be more about education, which starts with you, and then you transfer it down to the child and explain to them why the kind of safety measures you're taking are the way they are.
I agree with Mercy, actually, and I think children might end up being, or the youth for that matter, might end up being our saving grace. Because at times you find situations where the adults need the children more than the children need the adults, especially when it comes to technology. But we've taken a different approach. We need to take an innovative approach to this. We need to look at the ecosystem, the ecosystem surrounding children. So they're the children themselves, obviously. And then we have parents, guardians, we have the faith-based organizations, we have the teachers, and so on and so forth. So we need to have an awareness program that targets that ecosystem, so that we have programs for the children themselves, we have programs for adults, guardians, for example, and parents. We have programs for faith-based organizations, because and you mentioned trust. I mean, we all trust our pastors, our priests, and so on and so forth. If you hear something from them, then that's bound to have a significant impact on that child, isn't it? Or on that person, whether it's a child or an adult. So it's about looking at strategic interventions that will make sure that we have broad-based awareness across the ecosystem.
Making the internet a more dangerous place is perpetuated by people.
Absolutely.
It's not robots. It's not some extraterrestrial being. It's people. So what does the surveillance currently look like to bring some of these people to book? The internet jail. I mean, what? Because I think that's just as important. We seem to be dealing with making it safer in terms of what we can do because there's this threat. However, what about what mechanisms are in place to then make sure that those who are actually working on these things can actually know that there's an eye on them? Actually,
I actually wish you had an internet jail where you can, drag and drop somebody into that jail. But and this is based on the globe best practice. Cybersecurity is not a one-man show. It's a collaborative approach. And what the Kenyan government has done is we enacted in 2018, had some issues, and it was reenacted on 2022, the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, which really entrenches a multi-agency, multi-stakeholder approach to the management of cybercrime. So one of the things that act has done is to set up what you call the National Computer and Cybercrimes Coordination Committee, which brings together key government stakeholders, organizations, from the military to the intelligence to the police, which is mainly the DCI, to Communications Authority, the Central Bank. We have the DPP, Office of the Director of Public Prosecutions. We have the Attorney General's Office, among other actors in law, to make sure that that committee has reads from the same script. So one of the roles of that committee is to advise government on the interventions that are needed to be able to ensure that we have enhanced cyber resilience as a country. And obviously, the number of programs that are being rolled out, the role of Communications Authority in monitoring cyberspace is one of them. We have a multi-agency approach to make sure that once we see anything that is criminal in nature, it's swiftly sent to the Director of Criminal Investigations. And that has made sure that we're expeditious in our response when it comes to issues of cybercrime. So there are a number of initiatives that are being done. This show, of course, plays a significant role in ensuring and informing Kenyans that the government is working, but also to say that it's not a government responsibility. And that's why the theme for today's Safer Internet Day is very important. It's about togetherness. It's about concerted and collaborative effort.
Yeah. Can I just explain why that point about why it's not a government job alone? I think what we enjoy from the internet, for example, is the freedom that we can post something and our location is hidden. Like no one's going to know where I'm posting it from. So if you think about what keeps you safe online, it keeps criminal aspects safe as well. They really capitalize on the security of encryption and anonymity to do whatever they want to do. And stay hidden at the same time. So you can't, I wish there was like a surveillance way of doing it, but there isn't. Without affecting you and I's rights, who are not even criminal in nature, you can't cast a white debt like that. So I think, well, as you know, it's a really bad reality, but the buck stops with us, the users. It's like, it's our job to make sure we are not conned. I know it sounds bad.
Because usually you're only dealing with this when the threat is in your when the danger is actually in your face. I mean, just looking at a mother who didn't know what her teenager or who her teenager was talking to until the point where said teenage daughter is asking the mother, please drop me off at so-and-so place. I'm going to meet a friend. This girl is 13 years old. Turns out she was meeting a 45-year-old man in Nairobi. The threat is in your face before you know what to do about it. There's no what can you do before? So when we talk about the responsibility being then in our hands, what really can you do before? Make sure your children are not, or you need to know who they're talking to. Like the way Eric said, I know who they're talking to on the phone. Oh no,
that's
not
what
really.
parents think.
Do you?
because they are sitting across me, I know what they're doing.
Do you?
Really?
An assumption. But I think you're right. It's difficult. There are no straight answers to it, obviously. But for me, I think awareness is very paramount. And knowing what your kids are doing. It's actually kind of like a transposition from the traditional old society of we didn't have phones and anything. We still were responsible for our children in terms of growing their morals and so on and so forth. I think now we need to invest more because we can't run away from technology. These are digital citizens. So we have to make sure that we equip ourselves to be able to play our parental role in the digital space. I think that's what it's not easy. There are no straight answers, but I think we need to invest more in our building our own capacity as parents, so that we can be able to raise our children with certain morals and certain etiquette.
You know, in life outside the internet, so the state has this machinery that it has. All these agencies, they do patrols. They can check in on you at any time. On the internet, is that what I heard you saying? So there's this multi-stakeholder group that comes together from intelligence to DCI to Communications Authority. Yeah. Is that what you're saying, that you're actually constantly snooping on what people are doing?
Not really snooping. Not really snooping. I can tell you, I don't even think we have the capability to do the kind of snooping that people talk around. Neither the resources, for that matter. But what I'll say is that when it comes to, for example, a traditional role like the police role, the DCI, remember they have the old traditional way of doing investigations, isn't it?
Yep.
So you need to also have mechanisms to perform the same function in the digital world.
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're intelligent, there are ways of doing it, using human intelligence, whatever it is, or whatever methods that they use. You must have the capability to perform the same mandate. And the issue is about mandate.
Yeah.
So it's about making sure that your mandate is actually covered even from a digital perspective, isn't it?
Are those laws sufficient? Because that's where I'm heading.
Okay.
You see, we have all these laws. You have the Data Protection Law,
Yes,
the
yes.
Misuse and Cybersecurity
Yeah.
Act, and all these. Are they sufficient to actually allow the government, the state, to do that job
Yeah.
without crossing over into where the lawyer will come and tell us,
Yeah.
hey, civil liberties, and you're infringing
Yeah.
onto my space?
Yeah, I think the laws are adequate, but I'll leave Mercy to speak about it. I'll tell you, in terms of functionality, the laws are adequate because in any case, the right to privacy and freedoms are protected by the Constitution, and every law is subsidiary to the Constitution anyway. But I can tell you in terms of functionality, in terms of ensuring that the country, the level of cyber resilience for the country is high, the laws are adequate. I think the rest is just operationalization, but they're indeed adequate.
Are they?
Well, you're asking someone who challenged that Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act in court. So I think that's why he's putting me on the spot. But here's the thing with online offenses. How do you regulate only that which is bad without overreaching? And I'll give an example. If you look at the offense of cyberbullying, how it's been described in the Computer Misuse and Cybercrimes Act, it says anything that could cause, annoyance or that could, cause distress. Well, if you're a politician and people are saying you stole money, that's causing you distress.
Yeah.
But is it cyberbullying? Do you get where I'm going with that?
Yeah,
Is
if they don't have evidence.
No, there's evidence. People are just talking about you because you're trending. So you're in court, people are talking about your case. They're causing you distress. So that's what tends to happen with behavior crimes. Of course, there's the structural crimes like hacking, and there's no doubt about that. But when it comes to content offenses, there's always this tendency to cross the line.
Yeah.
So I don't think the solution is in the laws, because even the enforcement is very, very difficult. Case in point, the fake news offenses, who determines it's true and it's fake. How many cases have gone to the judgment point? But just, reeling it back to a question she asked earlier on, okay, so are we saying there's nothing that can be done before that? I feel like we can go through some practical things that can be done. For example, in that incident, I'm just assuming it's Instagram because that's like the most popular platform people use to chat. It's teaching children why a private account is important. I know for us who crave attention and crave likes and, the popularity culture, a public account is what you want because you want to see how many...
As many people following you as possible.
Exactly. You want to know the follows. You want to know how many times you're trending. No, if you're after security and you don't have a public profile, a private account is the way to go. And even then, you don't owe everyone who sends you a friend request a duty to accept them. Or if they send you a DM, you don't have to respond, especially if you don't know them. Like, the internet is not this magical place where you're going to meet all these magical characters. It is, on the contrary, just what you find in real life. You don't go stop at the stage and say hi to everyone. It just never happens like that, right? Or even passwords, something like password culture. A lot of us have our names and dates of birth as our birthday.
Something you can remember, Mercy.
What's on your status, on your WhatsApp status, on your birthday?
Eric want to.
Yeah.
on your birthday,
I have so many things to remember, Mercy. A password should not be one of them.
Get a password manager, right? Get a password manager.
Who's that?
No, not a password. I feel like if you depends on the phone you use. Yeah, not to drop names, but there are some phones that come with a password manager where you have a password to the password manager. So if it's not you, no one else can access your password. But you don't have to remember all your passwords. They just need to be secure.
Right.
Because what's going to happen?
And that password manager is on the internet.
It's not a person though.
Yeah,
So
whatever.
Yeah.
Right, but it's in that space.
Yeah.
It's in that same space.
It's think about it as a directory of your passwords that is secured with your own password. Yeah, and then change it up once in a while, because the birthday problem, let me tell you, on your birthday you're going to be there on your WhatsApp stories. Say hi to me on my birthday, and everyone's going to know your password just like that, right? So,
do you know how many times we have to remember and keep changing passwords? Hey, anyway,
I think there are also other technologies.
let's take a break, Dr.
Okay, right.
Okay.
Right?
This is The Situation Room the only way to start your day.
Our guests this morning, starting with our guest host, Sophia Wanuna, and then the Acting Director, Cybersecurity at Communications Authority, Dr. Vincent Ngundi, and Mutemi, Managing Partner at Nzili and Sumbi Advocates. We are talking about safer internet. Look, the issue of the streets being safe is going to be a conversation that goes on a while.
Yeah.
So this government, for example, the government has decided that digital transformation is one thing that we must do.
Yeah.
We must create a digital economy. There's actually a state department for that purpose. We have all these laws in place, but we have seen what's happening. It's moving into more high-tech kind of theft and attacks online. We have heard cases, we've seen cases of people being arrested, crossing over borders because of what they've done, basically just stealing millions of shillings from local banks. We have seen Kenyans who are very enterprising and who are very well knowledgeable being jailed abroad because of same thing, cybercrime. And so it's a big threat. Are we really prepared here to deal with this level of cyber criminals?
Yeah, the president obviously is the biggest champion of digital transformation, which is a good thing for any economy. And of course, there are also timelines for the digitization of the 5,000 public services. But that comes. It's a process. So among the things that is being done by government is to do a gap analysis of our capabilities. Where are we as a country, and where do we need to be, or what do we need to do to make sure that the digital transformation agenda is laid on a secure digital platform? I think that's where we're coming from. And it's, as I said, it's a process. We're working with all stakeholders because remember, majority of cyberspace, the infrastructure, is run by the private sector, obviously. Yeah. And that's why I'm saying, so we're taking a collaborative approach. We're trying to understand our capabilities as a country, so as government, as a private sector, among other stakeholders. And that will inform how we roll out the digitization of public services.
Dr. Ngundi, you see the scare here, though, is that everything goes online.
Yeah.
Being spearheaded by government.
Yeah.
And then the private sector is supposed to follow suit. So all my information, from my date of birth to my DNA to all the properties I own, every place I've worked, everywhere I've lived, where I'm moving to and from, all this is somewhere being held by government.
Yeah.
And the private sector is also feeding information into this.
Yeah.
Now, it just takes one attack for someone to know, Sophia,
Everything.
I have all your information. I can actually impersonate Sophia and take everything she owns, including her identity.
Or you can go to a truck to the Citizen Services Department and carry all the files, and you'll still have the same information.
Yes.
Obviously, it's easier when it's
online.
Obviously, it's easier when it's online.
Yeah.
What I can tell you is that there is no system that is foolproof. So what you're raising is a global concern. Even the most advanced economies grapple with the same things. And I can tell you, if you do a simple search of cyber attacks in developing economies, you'll be shocked. But is the initiative of digital transformation important? It is, because it's about bringing services closer to people. So whether it's, the example I give is that if you digitize a service, for example, it will bring a service from an average of 5 to 10 kilometers, which is where your next government office is, to 0 kilometers, bring it to the people. What does that do? It brings socioeconomic transformation, ease of access to services, efficiency, effectiveness in delivery, both in the private and public sector. So I think the motivation should be the impact to the economy. Then we work backwards and ask ourselves, what do we need to do? Remember, why do we invest in securing our borders? Is to make sure that we are globally competitive, because people will only invest in a safe environment. I think we need to transform that and move it to also the digital economy, to make sure that let's not be afraid. Is it a good thing? Yes. What needs to be done? Let's build the capabilities to make sure that we do it in a way that transforms and helps Kenyans.
Which is where my concern is, and that's why I'm asking this question. I'm asking whether our institutions are actually building that capability to make sure that we are kept safe.
Absolutely.
The Communications Authority, do we have the proper laws? Do you have sufficient resources to do the job?
I'll speak on behalf of Communications Authority only, because I can't speak for any other government agency. I'm here representing the DG. So for us, we are doing everything we can within our abilities to make sure that we are ready. We've been doing it. We're not starting just now. We've been building capacity for the last 10 years when it comes to cyberspace. It's not something we've started now. And we continue building it because the world is dynamic out there. We have to keep building and making sure that we're up to standard. But as I say, this is a global issue that requires continuous and concerted effort.
Yeah. And that's also the importance of advocacy. I mean, those concerns will always be there. And part of the mystery of the internet is when you've finally understood one threat, it no longer is the threat that they he haibambi. They move to the new one that inabamba. So advocacy presents this opportunity to constantly engage with the government and feed in from researchers and technologists and tell them, okay, the approach you're taking, digital ID might have its advantages, but these are the kind of risks that we're looking at, and we are asking you to show us what safeguards are in place. I don't think it's fighting the government when you do advocacy. I think it's more we're all in a new space and we have to find the best way forward. So that 10 years from now, we're not looking at, how the hell did you get this so wrong? Yeah.
How would you know? I mean, with all this work that's being done, I mean, it's not, just from what you said, this one comes up, you snuff it out, another one grows here that, isn't it?
Yeah.
How would you know then that the internet was gradually becoming a safer place, or that the safeguards that you're putting in are effective?
Absolutely.
How would you?
So one of the initiatives we have as government, and it's going to be out in the next year or so, is we are going to have a national cyber resilience index. We're going to have the baseline in the next 12 months or so that tells us as a country we are at here. So it's based obviously on metrics and tools that have been used to collect data. So we'll be doing them annually to see where we are and whether the interventions that we're putting in place are actually working.
Yeah.
So that's a very important question. How do we measure the impact of what you're doing? And statistically, you use indices that help you to see whether you're making progress or not.
And as you do that, another one is morphing. So it's developing. So it's a very interesting space to be in.
It is.
Absolutely.
But you talked about government services, and the president was talking about this in that data protection conference. 5,000 of them, I think he said, in the next 6 months to be online. But many Kenyans will remember in the last administration, which he was part of, Huduma number, and were being hardened, threatened, ultimatums, get in there. This is the one source of truth. This is it. From where you said, I wonder, how did that backfire? Isn't that we didn't have the structures? Because it's not the first time we've heard about this one source of truth. It was there even before. We saw Huduma number coming in. Here we are again talking about all of this. And Eric has raised the issue that then you have all of this information, and the danger of then not having a foolproof system is that then we could really get ourselves into murky waters.
All you need is a balloon straying into our airspace.
Return Huduma.
And not shooting it down in time.
I think I had something similar to that recently. But again, I think it's about, I'll not speak about the Huduma numbers specifically or as I said, the role of digital transformation is not entirely on Communications Authority.
Correct.
We have a role to play, which is part of ensuring security, but really it's under somebody else. But what I can say is that, and based on also what the president said, is that we need a unique Kenyan identity, a unique online Kenyan identity, not the ID card, but a unique digital Kenyan identity. Now, when it comes to security, as I mentioned, there's no system that is foolproof. But there are technologies, advanced technologies that can help you make it better, whether it's cryptography or other forms of technology that will help to make sure that the data that we have online, especially personal data, is protected.
Well, I think it's never the what, it's the how it's being done. And I think that was, to your question on Huduma number, I think when we challenged the Huduma number rollout, it wasn't really about the what. It's about, okay, how are you doing this? Who is collecting the data? Where is it going? Where is there no data protection impact assessment beforehand? Because by that time we had the Data Protection Act, right? So it's good to have, big dreams, because there's no way we compete in international landscape if we don't match up to technology. That's accepted. But then the message is not for us to be trigger happy. It's not because, this country did this, then we have to do this. It's what really is our genuine problem as Kenyans. Let me give an example. We're in a rush to digitize everything, but then he'll bear witness. We are not yet at universal access level. Not everyone has access to the internet, right? So while everything might be online, there's a whole aspect, there's a whole demographic that could be locked out from government services just simply because where they come from, even getting basic technology, leave alone 4G and 3G, it's impossible to access that, right? So our unique problems call for unique solutions. If this is the Kenyan problem we're trying to solve, then we solve it, but in a wholesome way, so that we're not stepping on other people's rights. While, in Nairobi, you're getting the best of the best, but someone comes from a very remote area, now the internet comes in and makes their life even more miserable because they can't even access anything at all, right? So it's always a balancing act, but at the same time, we always have to investigate how things are being done. Yeah.
Didn't the Communication Authority tell us ahead of the elections that we are pretty much fully covered?
Yeah.
Almost?
Actually, the coverage is quite wide. The coverage for 3G is quite high across the country.
Yeah.
And obviously that advances and promotes e-commerce. And let me tell you, and I'm coming back to innovative ways of doing things. E-commerce is a big word globally. But how have we done it in Kenya? E-commerce is there because with technology, with the access to telephony services, forget about even the internet. You can call a border person and tell them, go to that shop, get me something and bring it back to my house. That's really e-commerce.
That's e-commerce.
It's absolutely e-commerce. So it's not about just, it's how we approach, and that's why I like the Kenyan element, because we think outside the box at times. So that is e-commerce in itself. What has availed that? It's access to 2G or 3G technology across the country. The same with government services. Obviously, hand in hand with the digitization of services is the role of 100,000 kilometers of fiber.
Exactly.
What does that do? It makes sure that you bring the internet as close to everybody as possible.
Yeah.
Because obviously you also need an element of broadband connectivity when it comes to some of these services.
Yeah, absolutely.
Then there's the threat of, because it's now a global village, businesses that are not operating in this jurisdiction just getting access into the Kenyan market and scamming people. So the other day, sometime last year, we hosted somebody from the UN who was telling us Kenya is one of the biggest countries participating in cryptocurrency. And in terms of people purchasing and transferring cryptocurrency, Kenya ranks among the top 3 in the world.
Yeah.
Then we have seen the stories that are taking place about crypto and the collapse of crypto, and then others that are completely fake. So how safe are we as we go into this digital economy, as we're seeing, okay, so what's happening globally? It's crypto, and let's go and buy crypto. People are investing in this. There is now a whole thing about Forex, and there are all these FX traders who are online. How safe are we from those?
It's a big problem. I must say, but again, it goes to ignorance. You'll only scam somebody if they're ignorant about a subject, isn't it?
Yeah.
So again, I might be overthinking it, but I can tell you awareness is very important, both proactively and reactively at the same time. When it comes to things like crypto, of course, we've seen the central bank coming in, issuing guidance on that element, saying that they're going to do a study that will help to understand that space so that they can inform Kenyans properly. But I think at the end of the day, it's about creating awareness and building personal capability before investing or doing anything.
Who takes that responsibility? Okay, yeah,
I've
to take the responsibility to learn, but who also takes the responsibility of creating all this awareness of the warning signals and all?
Well, government has a key role to play, but I'll tell you, based on the theme, it's together, it's everybody. From what Mercy said, you'll be shocked. It was alien for government to work with civil society, but we have now embraced civil society, especially on the element of advocacy and awareness, because they're good at that. So we have agreed as let's be clear on who does what. It doesn't mean that if I work with you, you can't criticize me constructively. But let's also work together. Let's build on the synergies and strengths of the various players so that we can have a collective whole that is better for all of us.
So this continues to be, it's a rolling matter. I mean, as development and, technology continues to improve, who knows where we're going to be 10 years from now, right? So what are the challenges in terms of having expertise to work on these? Because we're talking about having a Kenyan signature, having a Kenyan digital signature, that kind of thing. What are the challenges as concerns expertise? And why I ask this, because, pardon me, let me try and bring this. We talk often about the education in the country then not matching the workforce or vice versa. Workforce not matching education. So if we're saying that there's a constant push to try and make sure that Kenya is cyber secure,
Yeah.
it seems then there would be some gaps where we need people to do some kind of work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So when it comes to schooling,
Yeah.
is there some kind of cross, sector conversations that are happening and saying, look, guys, this is what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Are we educating?
Are we training for this?
Are we training for it? Or are we going
Yeah.
to have to bring in expensive foreign labor,
Yeah.
whereby there's an opportunity right here to train students who could be aware that government needs this help?
Of course, government is working with players within government, really the education sector, to ensure that the courses we churn out there actually meet the needs of industry. Of course, there's internship programs where you bring in interns into government, like in Communications Authority. They come to learn on the job on what needs to happen. Then there's obviously continuous training while working, because as you said, it's really dynamic. The problems of today, I might just get out of here and I see an email that shows that there's a new vector that is out there. You can't have that in a university degree. Exactly. You can have the principles of understanding what an attack vector looks like, but you can't enumerate them into a program. So that calls for professional development, continuous professional development, attending conferences, meeting your peers across the globe to share experiences. So all those, contribute towards building the capacity of a country, because where the world is going, you need to have internal capabilities, because issues of sovereignty, issues of patriotism will start becoming a key element. You don't want certain jobs to be done by a foreigner. It's going to be a very expensive, a huge risk for the country. We can't avoid it at times, but let it be those circumstances where you can't do anything about it. But the idea, the agenda is to move towards building the critical capability to handle our critical services as a government. Yeah.
I think it's also our approach towards professionalism. If you think about the employers themselves, a lot of the time the IT guy is not a high up management level person. They are the person who comes, oh, my computer is not switching on, and what
the internet
the
is
only
not
thing
working.
you forgot to do is switch on the socket, right? So we've minimized their jobs to this menial not management but really administrative duties, and you forget that person actually understands how the network works, and if you don't treat them well enough, they could be the person that becomes a negative factor in your company, because they understand the network. You just don't know that they understand your network. So there's also a message here for people to start prioritizing and investing in professionals. It's not that we don't have techies in Kenya. We have really, really good techies, and case in point, even when you report some of these offenses, sometimes they outsource the services of external techies to come and help the government to understand these issues, but then we don't see it as a good profession, so then you don't prioritize it, and then you're in trouble. And we're seeing the same with data protection as well. Someone just wants nisainie to inform. You don't want to invest the time to actually do the impact assessment, to really understand what the Data Protection Act requires from you. Those shortcuts are really dangerous, and they can cost you. You
know what's interesting, the president has talked about building and focusing on a digital superhighway. And so when I hear you talking about, yes, you have all of these mechanisms in place in terms of safety, but nothing is foolproof. I remember when the late President Kibaki did the Thika superhighway, and then it was a game changer. But so many people moved that side of town. Now the traffic updates are how crazy it is. So talk to me about what this, if in fact the 40 billion that the government intends to put into that project works, then what in terms of safety in that space we'll be looking at?
I think what I'm looking out for in government plans is what really are your mitigation measures, and first to get an understanding that the implementer knows what the risk is. I think what we've seen in the past, especially with county governments, sometimes when the efforts are very dissociated, CA knows. CA is, has the right expertise. They know everything about everything, right? But you don't expect the level of expertise at CA to be the same at, a county government level. So when you're judging these initiatives, you have to always, is there an understanding of the risks? Right? And that's also what the Office of the Data Protection Commissioner asks. Like, do you understand the risks in the area you're operating in? And then give me a roadmap to what are your mitigation measures and what are your safeguards. So you always have to approach this in that direction. Yes, there's fanfare to the big project, to what we're going to achieve. But are you self-aware enough to tell me, like, I appreciate these are the risks that I'm putting your data in? If I'm collating all your information in eCitizen, there's a notice there that tells me, okay, these are the following risks that your data
Yep.
could be exposed to. But then I'm being very honest that I have, there are standards in the tech world, right?
Yeah.
I have deployed this particular standard, and if you can read about it here, and these are still the remaining risks that your data could. I think it's more about transparency than selling. A really beautiful future to people, and then 10 years down the line you realize that the government was lying to you. So I think it's time also to engage, right? Public participation becomes very, very important in this field, as it was even with the IBC systems, right? It's not for you to go and buy kits and just deploy them without consultation. It's for you to ask, right? Let even the manufacturers come and defend the products to us and tell us these are the security features in the kits. Yeah.
Right.
Your remarks, right?
They're good remarks, but at the same time, we also need to aspire, obviously, as a country. We also need to have a future that looks good.
Yep.
We also don't want to sell gloom out there. But does it require effort to achieve? Absolutely. Are we capable of doing it? I think we do. I think we have the impetus that has been given by the aspirations of the current administration. I think we have the biggest champion you can ever have, which is the president. The least we can do is support him achieve his agenda, which in any case is bound to lead to social economic transformation.
Okay. We are looking forward to getting there. And as we, like you said, it's all about all of us collaboratively working towards having a safer internet.
Yeah.
So it's getting our own information, making sure that we understand the best we can, and making sure that we are always careful as we consume information, as we post information onto the interwebs. And to this www.
Oversharing culture.
The oversharing culture needs to stop.
Well, I won't tell you to stop. You just need to know what you're exposing yourself to. Yeah.
Needs to stop.
Yeah?
Stop.
People make
Mercy.
money off of
It's limited.
oversharing. So
Yeah.
There's a balance there.
It's a money-making venture, oversharing.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
If you're not making money, stop.
That's it, huh? If
I think so. That's a good idea.
if you're not making money, stop.
What are you doing it for? Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mutemi is the managing partner at Nzili and Sumbi Advocates, and Dr. Vincent Ngundi is the acting director at Cybersecurity for the Communications Authority. They've been here because today is Safer Internet Day. It's being commemorated worldwide. And the theme again for this year, Dr. Harry?
Together for a safer internet.
That's it. Together for a safer internet. Keep it here for more conversations coming up in the next hour on SpiceFM. Guys on KTN Home, thank you very much for watching. You'll be joining us again tomorrow morning, but you can switch over to SpiceFM across the country or watch us online. SpiceFM KE on Facebook and YouTube.